Season 5, State of the Necromancer, and we're back to having tons of problems. Season 4 was fantastic. Minions were good. Maybe too good. But I don't see this as a problem because that's kind of like the Necro's identity. You slapped skeletons and the golem into whatever build, and the build was better. Thumbs up. We actually like this. Now fast forward to Season 5. Your goal is beating Uber Lilith, Tier 8 hordes, and a Tormented boss. Now, Tormented boss and Uber Lilith can be done by almost every single boss. And then we're looking at Tier 8 Infernal hordes, which can be quite the challenge. And we will actually compare our Necro today versus the Druid. Why versus the Druid? Well, this is my landslide Druid, without using a single Uber unique. Just normal unique items that I get from farming the bosses, not even the tormented bosses. I got half of these uniques from doing the seasonal quest, and the other half I even get while leveling up. So I didn't have to farm any bosses, and I can absolutely shred tier 7s and tier 8s without much effort. It is mental what the Druid can actually do. Now, if I'm looking at my Necromancer and currently at the top builds, the builds that can actually farm tier 8s, the builds that are doing so damn well. Blood Surge. If you're not having the Doombringer and the Ring of Starless Skies, optimally also the Harlequin Crest. Well, let me tell you, sir, you're not going to get far. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that complicated to actually get 3 Uber uniques. You just have to farm tormented bosses or level up 12 characters. And since a character only takes 8 hours to level up, or sub 6 hours depending on what class you go for, technically getting tons of Resplendent Sparks ain't the problem. But if I have to level up 12 characters, 2 or 9, to get a bunch of Resplendent Sparks to make myself Uber uniques if I'm super unlucky with tormented bosses, only for my Necromancer to beat a tier 8 horde, that feels kinda iffy. That's really not where we should be going with this. Now, this was only the Blood Surge build that is so in desperate need of the Uber uniques to really scale so far up that you can effortlessly do any piece of content. Surely, the Bone Spirit build, the billion of damage banger, is going to not be so expensive. This is King Pick. He's the authority on Bone Spirit, the man, the myth, the legend. And here's clearing a tier 154 pit, which is absolutely incredible. 7 billion, 8 billion, 5 billion, 7 billion. Yeah, look at the damage he's dealing. And that's due to a new tech called Essence on Kill. Yeah, you do actually need complete new items for this. And we're talking about optimally greater affix Essence on Kill. Because if you only get 1 or 2 Essence on Kill, that won't do. We want to have this all the way up to probably 4 Essence on Kill. Yeah, you do also need that on Bow's Rings. Then optimally the perfect roll Banished Lord's Talisman. We are nowadays using a 2-handed weapon with Essence on Kill as well. And you most likely destroyed tons of them. I know I did because I used to have a greater affix Essence on Kill. The Pass of Trag'Oul, optimally with a double greater affix as well to see these damage numbers, right? Like we're talking about, if you want to see these damage numbers, these are his exact items that he's actually playing. The crazy part is actually not the items. The crazy part is hitting these masterworks, because that is probably so many times rerolled the Path of Trag'Oul to really get the triple 7 to bone skills, to get the triple core skills masterwork, right? And then to also have the macabre skills chest, and last but not least the Harlequin Crest. Advantage for this build really is you would only need the Harlequin Crest. Why? Because of the super immense cooldown reduction, yes. Then otherwise you only need to get these other pieces, and if you do not have them greater affixed, the build would somewhat work. The problem is if you're lacking a single thing, so you're not having the Essence on Kill, you're not having the Rapid Ossification Temper, the build kind of falls apart. You can play it, but you'll feel hard limited. It's one of these builds you don't play for leveling. You essentially have to play another build. You have to farm tier 5 hordes with whatever, until you can finally go over to this. Now there's another interesting Necro build that doesn't do billions of damage. It can occasionally do the 1 billion Bone Spirit, but it does 500 million, 600, 700 million regularly, throwing out those spirit waves. Yes, it's called the Spirit Wave Necro. Look at this. That's how it looks like by Scribblet. But let me hold this for a second. Oh, that's a Doombringer. That's a Ring of Starless Skies. And that is also a Harlequin Crest. I did try a budget version of this. Absolute budget version. Like literally throw together the shit I have and see if it works. And let me tell you, a tier 5 wasn't an issue. And I'm pretty sure I could have knocked out a tier 7. There's my favorite problem with Necro though, survivability. And that is all down to no barrier production. My Druid has 400% damage reduction and can make infinite barrier. I need to have at least a temerity rolled at 80% or I might not even consider playing said build, because that temerity is mandatory. Oh, and if you're not playing temerity, you're forced to play a Bone Storm, and that Bone Storm needs the aspect of the Shielding Storm. And let me in on a secret already, because I was talking to Blizzard a while back. They are aware that the Shielding Storm is quite oppressive, and at this point with 6% of your max health actually too strong. So that will probably get nerfed in the future again, where we have it somewhat good this season. But even with this somewhat good, I've been trying T8 hordes with Shielding Storm, and it feels okay-ish. But as soon as minions are actually not close to you, so let's say you just killed everything around you, and then there's the Desecrator coming, and he just blasts you out of the water, no matter your Shielding Storm or not, because you're unable to replenish it unless you're actually actively damaging something. So using a build that is working on range is quite not an option, because you kind of need to live inside your opponent's booty to get the Shielding Storm. Whereas for my Druid currently, I'm just standing AFK in the middle of the Infernal Hordes, and then I spam like my Hurricane to get my berry up, and then I spam more Hurricane to get my berry up, and yeah, like I'm not losing that. Advantage of the Spirit Wave Necro though, because that one will actually do pick up Blood Orbs, and the orb will be completely temeritied up. But yeah, you do only need 3 Uber Uniques to really play this at maximum efficiency. My absolutely budget build, for example, just to put this into perspective, was doing 50 million Bone Spirits compared to the 500 to 700 million Bone Spirits here. The Ring of Starless Skies is really doing wonders. That item it's just oppressive. Honestly, that's the only word I can think about, because 50% multiplicative more damage for using 50% less resource, there is no question on how good that actually is. And that's my problem with Necromancer right now, and why Season 4 was so good. Everyone could play minions. Everyone could have fun. And it was really simple to put together. You could utilize Uber Uniques to maybe boost it even further. You did not need them to even have the right to exist. Again, looking at some of the other classes with mere basic equipment, what they can do in comparison to what Necromancer can do if he's breaking his back and farming for copious hours is in no way compared, especially taking away our blighted aspect. The one aspect that made so many builds work. Don't get me wrong, the blighted aspect was oppressive in itself, because you felt forced to put shadow damage in every build for no reason, just to get that 240% multiplier. Yet though, that made so many things work and so many things feel good. That was our one thing that allowed Necro to kinda exist. And now with that gone, you're sitting there and, well, there are fun builds and you can have a good time with Necro, but there's going to be a lot of sadness until you can have a good time. It does feel bad reaching level 100 and essentially being able to farm tier 5s. When my Druid, without help from my other characters, could farm tier 5s at level 85. I mean, I've been reaching level 100 on the Druid, and my gear was 8 out of 12 masterworked, and I was done with the game almost. My Necro reached level 100, and I was scrambling to, well, you know, I could do those tier 5s, so that was quite nice. But I was not getting 500 to 600 ether there because I was absolutely tearing everything into pieces. I miss the times where Necro just felt super strong. I was asked one question as I was visiting the Blizzard HQ, and that question was leading. It was, do you ever feel good playing Necro? Right? Do you ever feel like you're doing something better than other classes? And I love Necro. It's my favorite class. I'll forever play it first over anything else. But the answer was a clear and resounding no. And that goes from not having proper defense to not having a good traversal skill. And we're talking about every other class, including the Spiritborn, can fast travel in some way. Apart from Druid. I know, Druid brethren, we're in this together. I mean, you get Rogue with Shadow Step and Dashing, Mage can teleport, Barbarian can leap, charge whatsoever, and we're not going to start on what the Spiritborn can do because he's Dash Fiesta Maniac times 10. He's Rogue with a cherry on top, essentially. So Necro and Druid are kind of left out in the open and just automatically feeling bad. Ever played Necro in a dungeon with anyone else? Dark Citadel coming, quite that big, like, cool raid content. You're always last. You'll never be first. You'll never be in front of everyone else. Sure, if you put in Sever in your build where you can't fit in Sever, and then some aspect that you really don't want to play, you could finally move faster. So you can ruin your build just to keep up with the other builds that do that naturally. That's pain. Truly staggering. And yet, you know what? Season 6, I'll start with the Necro. We'll definitely also do the Spiritborn. But Necro is just what I enjoy the most. Especially since leveling does feel good with the Necro. That's probably the only point where I will say it feels good to be the Necro. You can't still do things better than others. But it does feel fun to be a Necromancer. How are you this season? How are you enjoying it? Are you still feeling the fundamental flaws exist, especially on the Barrier side? If there was any way for Necro to make Barrier from the skill tree, or even over an aspect, do damage get Barrier, and not have Bone Storm and the aspect of the Shielding Storm. No, something do damage get Barrier. Maybe do it over Lucky Hit. That would change everything for Necromancer, because you could finally juice out your own Barrier just simply by existing. Huge. We will see what Season 6 has to offer. PDR coming soon. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And if you're now looking for 3 fun Necro builds because you have the equipment, here's the video. Have a good time. Enjoy. Thank you for watching.